Hi sewing friends, welcome back. Today we have another cozy little sewing vlog. I am sort of wrapping up my summer sewing before we get into fall. And I found this beautiful summer dress online on Etsy. It is by Brooklyn Girl Vintage. The rub about this dress is it only comes in one size. So the pattern itself is a little bit small for me, and I'm going to need to grade it out first and do a little mock-up to make sure that it fits. But I think it's really cute. I love this scallop detailing across the bust and these cute pockets. I don't know that I'll have enough for the bolero as well as the dress, so we're gonna focus on the dress, and if I have enough fabric left over, I'll make the jacket as well. I'm not entirely sure I'll have enough. I am working with this beautiful linen from Blackbird Fabrics. They always have great linens. Big fan of their linens. So I have about 2 meters of this on bolts. And then I also have a prototype that didn't go exactly to plan. The waistband on this is a very funny shape, and so it was corrected on the pattern itself, but in this prototype I don't wear it because the slightly odd shape of the waistband, it gets me every time. So we're gonna repurpose this because there's quite a bit of fabric in the skirt that's still really usable. So that's the project. Let's go sew. My hair is up, I'm ready to work. So here's our pattern pieces. So my back piece, side front, and center front. I need to increase these by 4 inches total in circumference, which sounds like a lot, but for the seams, it's really only like 1/2 inch at the side seams. And then it would probably be about, let's see, this is placed on the fold because it's a side zip. Okay, so we would do 1/2 inch at the side seams, and then we'd need to do 1/2 inch at the center front seams as well. And then for the skirt, we'd need to do the same thing because it's, well, there is a center front seam and a center back seam. So we could do a 1/4 on each side of those. Let's see. No, because then they wouldn't line up. Then my center front wouldn't line up with that center front seam, and my side seam wouldn't line up appropriately with my, at least I think, would it? Now I'm doubting myself. Either way, I do know how to grade these. I'm not gonna be precious about the actual pattern itself, since it's a PDF pattern of a vintage pattern. And I'll just be able to cut right into it. So I'll cut both lengthwise and crosswise, and I'll add the necessary portions to the pattern by slashing and spreading. So let's get into that. So this is what I ended up doing. I actually treated the pattern as if it didn't have any seam allowances, and then I'm going to have to step back this start a little bit, but fast and easy, right? I did have to make adjustments to the front facing piece, or scallop piece, what do they call it? Band. They called it a band. So I had to make some adjustments to that because the center front and the side front join like right about here, and so I needed to extend it, but I didn't want to disrupt the scallops. So I did it here at the point where it starts to curve under your arm, so you would get less disruption of these scallops, because I'm not increasing it the full width of a scallop. So that one did need to be increased, and I'll have to add some to the side on this one as well, just to make sure that it matches the back panel. So I'm going to now do my bodice mock-up and see how it fits. Quickly, I just noticed as I was doing the mock-up here, we're actually missing a match point. We're missing a notch. I don't think that'll be a big issue, but it's just something to note that this pattern does miss that notch there. And it actually looks like it's missing on this side as well, because there should be a notch right here. So this is the finished mock-up. It is basically 4 inches too big, so I don't know that I needed to grade it out at all, which I suppose is good news, but now I've got to go back to the drawing board and do another mock-up to make sure that the other one fits. So give me a minute. Okay, we're back to the, hold on, let me turn off the fan. Oh, it's so hot. Okay, I went back to the original pattern. So this is the fit. I did pin out a little bit here at the top of the bust line and then just scooping out a little bit at the bottom. The back is actually quite large, and I'm going to take a look at the instructions and see if there's something I'm missing, but it is just way too wide for me. So I think once I make those fit changes, it'll be great. It is really interesting how that inner inset panel is so far center. I think that's the look though, so we're going to leave it. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just still a little big. So definitely bigger than I was expecting based on the description. Today. Got the bodice finished, and I have the back skirts finished. I decided to go with French seams because I'm not planning on lining this, and they turned out pretty good. I'm happy with them. And then I have the center front done. I still need to do the side fronts, but I have to attach the pockets first. And I think I want to get just a little bit of extra cotton fabric to line the pockets with, so probably just like a 1/4 yard. And I'm running out of thread. And I also need some seam binding for the side that closes with the zipper on it, because I'm not going to do front seams there. So we just have to put this aside and start again tomorrow. Good morning, my friends. It is a new day. It's actually about a week later. I took my family on a little vacation, and we just got back to, not last night, the night before. It was very late. I'm still a little tired from it. We had a great time, but hair's up, giant glass of water, which means I'm ready to work. Not a lot of progress was made, of course, as I was gone. I did, however, get the bodice and the skirt attached to each other, and I also made it to the store before I left. I got myself my zipper, my seam binding, and my thread, which is already in the machine. I decided that I didn't actually need to get a cotton fabric because I realized I had some stuff in my stash that we could use. This I used as the lining of a trench coat I made, I want to say probably 3 years ago, maybe longer, maybe it was 4. Time flies. But I still had this in my scrap trash. Scrap trash? What's scrap trash? Anyway, I still had this in my scrap bin. And I thought it worked great for the pockets. It was tonally correct, and you're not really gonna see it. It's just sort of there to add a little bit of body to the pockets. While I've been looking at this dress, I'm kind of playing with the idea of adding a little bit more embellishment. So I got my Creating Couture embellishments out last night, and I had a little page through, and I might be doing something with lace. I'm still sort of contemplating maybe just on the pockets, a little bit on the scallop straps, just adding a little bit more flair. And then I was thinking I might scallop the hem. In the pattern, it is just a straight hem, but it might be fun to scallop it. But that might be overkill too. I'm still sort of playing around with how I want to sort of snazz it up. It just needs a little something extra. As I've been holding it across my body, it just is falling a little bit more flat than I would like. So we've got our work cut out for us still. Next up, I am going to be doing the seam binding along the side zip, because that's the side I didn't do the French seams on. And then we're going to move into the scallops along the bodice. And I've got questions about that. I've looked at this pattern multiple times, and currently it makes 0 sense to me. So we are going to have to sort of work through that a little bit. See, is this pattern correct? Does it actually fit? If not, I'm going to have to repattern it. Those are my adventures next. Let's get into it. This is where we're at. I've got my pockets placed, and I am going to top stitch them on, but first I'm going to hand stitch them in place. I'm a little concerned about the reliability of the pins, and I think I've got them perfectly placed as I want them. I did get my zipper in last night, which is fantastic. It does need a little bit more finishing on the inside because it's just loose on this end, and I haven't trimmed off the bottom of it either or finished that. This is my problem. This is supposed to be the front band, and this is supposed to be the back band. This is supposed to be the side seam. What is with that shape? I was originally thinking this is the part that went under the arm, and then that would make sense. But it doesn't match this 4-4. And then I lay it on top, and if you are to indeed believe that it matches, it first of all goes past center front, and the seam joint would be here. Anyway, this piece, I don't know what it is. I've also looked over the pattern sketch, and these are the pieces in question. While this piece could potentially have a little bit of a curve to it, it is not shaped at all like that. The back band makes sense. So, I mean, that piece is fine. This front piece, 0 sense.
I don't understand it at all. I am now going to have to just pattern it, and we'll just have to take it from there. It won't be too hard to pattern. It'll be pretty quick.
All right, here's a little progress report. I did get the upper band on, and I'm experimenting with the lace. Please excuse my voice. I got a terrible cold and I'm still a little croaky. But I think the lace is looking good. I'm now sort of working along with the length. It is really long, really, really long. I even took inches off and it's really long. I also, here, I want to get a little closer. Hope this doesn't make you seasick. The straps are crazy, crazy long on this pattern. Wild, wild wrong. Wrong, sorry. They are just crazy long. So this was either drafted for somebody way taller than I am, feet taller than I am, or that is just a very strange translation of this vintage pattern. So I'm just working on the placement of the lace. I think I'm liking it so far. And I fill this out a lot better than my form does, so keep that in mind too. Yeah, that's where we are, trucking along.
Yep. So I'm working on applying all of the lace. I've been doing it by hand. I am about 3/4 of the way through, and I will tell you, this is taking a long time. But we are getting to the home stretch. I have just been putting it on my embroidery hoop to make sure that everything's laying flat, and then I've just been hand playing it with just a slight overstitch. So here we go. 3/4 of the way through, we're almost there. I am looking forward to the next stages.
All right, my darlings, I finally got all of the lace appliqued by hand on the dress. I think overall it turned out really well, and I'm happy with that. So now we need to tackle the hem, which is our last adventure with this particular garment. The way that the pattern asks me to do it, excuse me, still fighting off that cold. The way that the pattern asks me to do it is that you take a long basting stitch and you basically stitch around the circumference of the skirt. I think they said 1/2 inch, maybe it was 1/4. Anyway, long basting stitch, and what they then want you to do is fold up 2 inches, so that's a nice deep hem, and then you take that basting stitch and you pull it so that the circumference of that upper edge matches the circumference up here. Because it's a flared skirt, this obviously is going to be larger than when we fold it up 2 inches. So you need that basting stitch to give it a little bit more ability to shrink into that space. So that's if we just do a straight stitch. I did also play with the idea of doing a scalloped edge on the bottom, and I would probably have to do similar tactics where I would need to do the basting stitch. I'd probably cut off probably about 4 inches, maybe less. Let's see. Yeah, no, that's closer to like 2.5. So I'd probably cut off about 2.5 inches. And then I would need to create the scallop edge and stitch that on like a facing. So I would be stitching it up here, and this would be our scallop, and I would sew along our scalloped edge. And then I would flip it in, and we'd have a cute little scallop on the bottom. But we'd still be dealing with the issue of this portion being larger than up here. So we would then need to still pull the thread and then hand stitch it in place. So those are 2 options. And then the final option I have is using this lace that I've had in my stash, this lace trim. It actually came off of Lace by the Yard, and I've had it for about, a ridiculous amount of time. Actually, I've had this probably about 12 years. I used it to make a wedding dress for my sister ages ago, and this is just what was left over from the hem of that dress. And I thought we could do that straight stitch and then hem the bottom with this lace, which would tie in the lace throughout the dress, because one of the things I was concerned about is that the lace ends up here out of the shot even, and there is no lace on the lower portion, and I was worried that then does it stop too abruptly? Are we not pulling in the hem? Does it feel disconnected? All of those kinds of things. So that would solve that problem. I'm not sure how I'm going to proceed yet, so I still need to think it through. I think though what I'm going to try is to do our straight stitch, or our straight hem, and then I'm going to apply the lace on top at the very edge. So that's the path I'm going to walk down right now. If I hate it, it's a pretty easy thing to change and then do the scallops. The scallops are more difficult because once I cut off that amount of fabric and I create that scallop edge, it just gets the dress shorter and shorter and shorter. So this one is pretty easy to go back on if it turns out that once I'm down this road, it's not working. So I'm gonna let this hang for probably another hour or two, and then I will measure it out to make sure that the hem is even to the floor. And from there, we'll just get to doing the rest of the work. I will either insert a montage or I'll just see you at the reveal. So that's my dress finished, friends. Overall, I'm really happy with the finished product. I think it looks really great, and I think it's one of those dresses that'll live nicely in my wardrobe for a long time. I probably won't get a whole lot of wear out of this today because, as you saw in the reveal videos, there's already fall leaves on the ground. So it's getting cold. I might be able to wear this a couple times with a cardigan before I have to put it away until next spring, but I know it will be happily awaiting me until it gets warmer in quite a few months. However, I do really like it. I think that it is a beautiful addition. It did take me overall a significantly longer amount of time than I was expecting. I started this at the beginning of August and it is now mid-September. Part of it was that I just had a really unexpectedly busy August, and so a lot of things came up that didn't give me a whole lot of sewing time. I was originally expecting to be able to wear this at the end of August and be able to enjoy those last few warm days with it. However, it'll happily wait me until the spring. The pattern itself was a little interesting. I think the product turned out great, but there was a lot of patterning that I needed to do myself, the band included. The sizing of the rest of the garment was a little bit off. It says that it was supposed to fit somebody that was 4 inches smaller than I am, and even with the original pattern I had to take quite a bit of ease out of the back and the sides and the front. And so if you are going to make this pattern, keep that in mind. Measure the pattern, don't go off of the actual description of it. I know better. I didn't do it. It's okay. We got some mock-ups and we got the fit that we needed. So I will link the pattern below along with this linen. I don't know if I'll be able to find this color. If I have, I'll link it below. If not, I'll link the linen bundle below. Anyway, thanks for joining me, friends, and until next time, happy sewing!